Hey, Tom Ferry, your coach. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Happy Wednesday, happy Veterans Day. Obviously, a lot to be grateful for in that area, for you, for all of us living in this country. Happy Veterans Day. This morning, I was on the phone with my Inner Circle group, and the dialogue that we were in was really a lot about, what do we say that's different to help customers make decisions today? How do we get people to move off the fence and be a yes for listing their property now, for buying a property now, for doing a transaction now versus delaying and waiting? We know that inevitably in the business, a lot of people have a tendency to wait in November and December. They hold off for that January rush, or they don't want to be bothered during the holidays. So tips from the trenches is kind of the thought or theme of the day. The objection that we brainstormed a bunch this morning was the seller objection of we want to wait and then sell the property in the new year. So the first thing I'd ask you is this. What do you say in that? I believe you should have 5, 6, 7 different dialogues, questions, points that you would make with your customers to help them make an educated decision, help them make a better decision if in fact it's right for them. By the way, if it's not, one of the games that we're playing with a lot of our clients right now, and I hope you would play it too, is if I'm out talking to you about selling your property today, and conditionally it doesn't make sense for you, then how many pre-signed listing agreements can you get between now and the end of the year to launch in January? I've got clients that are setting goals of 3 or 4, and I've got clients that are setting goals of 10. They figure they're going to be out, they're going to be talking to people, they're going to get the listing signature signed in November, December, but not go live until maybe the first or second week in January. Side note. So here's the objection that we want to talk about today. The objection is we want to wait and then sell in the new year. We hear that all day, every day. The question is, how do you handle it? Dave Robles, fantastic agent, great client of many, many years, so big shout out to Dave Robles. His, amongst about 25 great ones we heard this morning, was this. He said, do you prefer to make a big decision on what you know or what you don't know? I love that. Do you prefer to make a big decision, like listing your house, based on information that you know or based on information you don't know? And of course, what's everyone going to say? Well, we want to make decisions on what we do know. He went on to say, well, what we know is right now inventory is very low in our marketplace. What we know is inventory is very low. What we also know is that there is massive buyer demand between the tax credits and everything else that's happening, and we just know the number of buyers that are out and available in the marketplace with this sort of looming concern about interest rates next year and everything else that's going on in the world. So he says what we know is inventory is low and there's massive buyer demand. He said what we don't know, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, what we don't know is what the market's going to look like in January. What we don't know is how many bank-owned properties will come on the market in January. What we don't know is how many other sellers are people just like yourself that are thinking about waiting until the new year. What we don't know is how the market will be. Will it suddenly be overwhelmed with a massive supply of inventory? And when that happens, what we know is buyers would then be distracted from seeing your property and might not see it at all. So I loved this little objection handler. We did a bunch of them this morning on our call, and I thought what would be good for you is to take the time, maybe write out this one, because this is kind of a fun one, and I'll go through it again. Do you prefer to make big decisions on what you know or what you don't? What we know is inventory is low. What we know is buyer demand is high. What we know is there's a time limit on the $8,000 tax credit. What we don't know is what's going to happen in the future. What's the market going to look like in January? How many bank-owned properties? How many short sales? How many other sellers are waiting? Supply and demand. You know that. You know how to present that. So you get the gist of it. I would challenge you between now and the end of the year, if you don't have a list of 6 or 7 reasons why a buyer should decide now, if you don't have a list of 6 or 7 things you're really comfortable saying as to why a seller should list their property now versus wait, and if they do decide to wait, what are 4 or 5 reasons why they should list the property with you now and post-date it for January? I think that if you don't have that, what's going to happen is you're not going to spend a lot of time out there talking to people, working, because you don't have that, that comfortable dialogue that keeps you engaged and informed and wanting to share and wanting to contribute. Remember, at the end of the day, all this does is enable you to contribute. So, tips from the trenches, very simple. We know the objections are going to come up in November, December. How will you handle them? That's the real issue. If you know someone you should send this to, maybe an agent, maybe a buddy, maybe your manager, maybe a friend, I think there's some good dialogue here and some great discussion for you and your friends inside your office to work together to improve the quality of our dialogue, recognizing at the end of the day, if you can't help people make decisions in this business with what you're saying and what you're doing, you're not in business. That simple. So it's Wednesday, it's Veterans Day, your strategy matters, and as always, your passion rules. Thanks for watching this short video. Talk to you soon.